This is a recorded conversation that I had with Deron Ruse. It's a screen video where I had sat my phone down next to the computer and walked through what I'm about to show you. This is catching GoDaddy not being truthful about what they were doing to me. And this call is involving Deron Ruse, who was my Premier Services rep. And I walk him through DNS fraud. Now, this call also includes two conversations with Deron. This video link right here also includes two conversations with Deron Ruse and one with Luke at Premier Services, going over their SEO tool that's catching this hack. And I show him on this video how what I'm about to show you here, which is going to be very incriminating for Expedia, I allege. This is the conversation. And right about here, I start showing him how Google performs when it searches for my domains, because I noticed that my domains disappeared soon after I registered them. As soon after I registered my domains, they started redirecting to Expedia. And now we know why. They put me up on their subdomain at Akamai and redirected it to the index exchange. But here is Africa.viajes. And when I Googled, this is on screen video with Deron Ruse. He is observing what I'm noticing, but I can't explain it. I just see it happening. In fact, down here when we get to it, Deron Ruse is going to say, "Don't believe what you see." So I Google Africa.viajes, the link, by putting the period here, you will get a direct hit because that is the URL. And so I Google bikini.clothing somewhere in here. I didn't do it in order. And it pulls. But when I Googled America.viajes, Expedia pulled here and the domain did not. And thousands of mine were doing this. Thousands. They were doing this. Expedia.es and this code. And so this is beer.viajes. It would pull, instead of beer.viajes up here, instead of it, what it should do, because that domain was at Afternic, as soon as GoDaddy transferred my domains to Afternic, they started doing this. So this is a big deal because I walked Deron Ruse through this and he's getting very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. But this guy that owned a bunch of guides from England, his were doing it too. And some of his websites wouldn't resolve either. He was experiencing the same thing I was experiencing. I tell him about it here. And Deron Ruse kind of defends him. He does defend him. How do you know what his website's supposed to do? He kept saying. It's in there. But Hot.viajes pulled. That's my friend down the road. He got out of this because Expedia was ripping us off. But the big one here is Jalisco.viajes. And I mean, it's a big one because after this conversation with Deron Ruse, it didn't work when you put the period on it. It only worked with the Google words. I'll show you. So in our conversation with Deron Ruse, I hit him hard on this. I said Jalisco has a code. It should pull up here. It doesn't. It's pulling the Expedia domain, which is a subdomain. They made my domain subdomains, thousands of them, and they redirected them to the Expedia. So this is fascinating. I have this conversation with Deron Ruse. The next day, because it was very uncomfortable for him, the next day, you see this right here? That's how I pulled it. And there's viajes. So the next day, these keywords are just keywords. There's no period here. And look at how it changed. I mean the next day. Right here, there's no interior. There is. Loan.viajes. Stolen, hijacked. And they stole all my domains when I discovered Lacana. I wonder where he says don't believe what. There was two conversations here. Ignore what you see, I mean. At 29 minutes, he says ignore what you see. Nice.viajes. Right here. Expedia subdomain. They turned my domains into subdomains. Pike.fish pulled. They end up stealing it. But Pike.fish pulls on that call. Vivo.viaje. I'm so pissed they did not let me transfer this. They stole it from me. They were using it. Expedia was using this domain. Surf.viajes is one I would have let expire anyway, but pulls a lot. Surf.viajes. They didn't really care about that, so they didn't hijack it. It was an Afternic page. It's the last one I have. This is deliberate fraud at GoDaddy and Expedia to keep me from starting a travel business. They knew I was going to launch with Amadeus. They knew it. And they stole my domains from me afterwards when I caught them doing this. It's fraud. And this guy right here defrauded me from 2016 to 2019.